Hello, I'm Dan Ware, back in the studio again today with another familiar face to you Channel 12 watchers. That's Franklin Mayor Jim Arnold. We see you at those commission meetings at least twice a month, presiding there. And we've had you on once before when you were in, I guess, maybe your first or second week as mayor. So I thought we'd ask you to come back and kind of review the year. So are you game on that?
I'm game, Dan.
Well,
I feel a little bit more comfortable now than I did a year ago. So
well, that was
what? Been in office a while.
2 years in, two weeks in, and now it's almost a year. So is the job about what you thought it would be, or lots of surprises?
There have been many surprises, but it's been a lot more time-consuming than I was told it was going to be. But I've enjoyed it. It's been a good year. I think Franklin's had a good year, and
yeah,
I've been excited about some opportunities that have come by. And hopefully we can look back and say we've accomplished a few things that have been good for Franklin, and some things that were not so good, we let them pass on by.
Sure. Well, we'll talk more about that, but now you mentioned the time-consuming aspect of the job. What if there wasn't a city manager in place? What about the time demands of the job without that person?
Without the city manager, I probably would not have run for office.
I see.
I'm very much for the city manager. Tom does such a good job for us. He takes care of all the personnel problems we have. He, being an engineer, also helps on a lot of things like sewer plant, water treatment plant, roads and highways, equipment. He knows computers. Tom gives us a lot of good advice, and I'm very happy with his services.
So that gives you a little more freedom to think in big picture terms,
well,
and
it's
strategically.
True. You look at the big puzzle and you try to put the pieces together best as you can. And as I was explaining to a group last night, part of my job is to try to sift, I guess, the good from the bad, and you try to get good programs to introduce and help the community. Those that are not so good, you try to let go and shoot for something else.
Well, now you were in city government before as a councilman, I guess it was at that time, rather than commissioner. So how would you compare the burden and the reaction from the community of being a public servant 10 years ago and being a public servant today? Things were a little more controversial 10 years ago, seems like.
Right. 10 years ago, Dan, we were in dire straits. We had no money in the city treasury. 6 months into the year, the money had been spent up mostly for the entire year. So when we went into office January the 1st, there was no money to make payroll. We had to borrow money the first week to make payroll for the city. And now, under good management, the city is doing quite well. We're sound financially, and I'm very happy with the city manager form of government. If I had to come in without a city manager, as I say, I probably would not have run.
Well, now you were saying when you were in here back in January that probably one term as mayor would do you. Are you sticking to that, or are you having so much fun you might consider re-enlisting if the
Then I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun, but I believe 4 years will be my limit.
Yeah. Well, if so, then that means you probably got several things you want to get accomplished in that 4 years. Let's look at the first year, '99. Looking back on it, what do you think are, and this may or may not be things you feel like you can take credit for, but what were the major accomplishments for the city of Franklin that come to mind when you think of the past 12 months? And usually when I ask this, people say, "Well, I go blank because you put me on the spot." So don't let me intimidate you by throwing you that question.
No, you're not intimidating me. I'm just thinking back. If you look back, I think some of the highlights of not only Franklin but Simpson County would be the addition of 2 new fine industries. Having met with the people who either own it or run it, I've been very pleased with the quality of character that they have.
I assume one of those is Harmon
Motive.
That spoke to a city commission meeting recently.
Yes.
We had them on tape.
There was a young man, 28 years old, who's going to be plant manager. A fellow named Phil Eiler.
You going to get him to live in Franklin?
He's going to live in Franklin.
Well, good.
So we've been promoting that. I took he and his wife around town one day for about 2.5 hours, and we looked at everything, the good, the bad, and tried to promote Franklin as a place for our executives to live. To me, if you're taken from Franklin, you ought to put in Franklin as well. So hopefully they're going to be living here. Phil and his wife, Carrie, do not have any children at this point. And so we're hoping they're going to be moving here. He tells me they're going to, and
Mm-hmm.
probably in the spring they will be moving here, I think.
All right. Now you mentioned a second industry.
Second industry is Dana Films,
Mm-hmm.
owned by a gentleman that lives up close to Boston, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
They supply Tyco, or the old Kindle company out here, with
Mm-hmm.
part of the tape or the duct tape that they make.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand they will be highly mechanized and will be using the railroad siding at the new industrial park
And that's
to
on
get a lot of-
31W North up
Yes.
toward Salmons, right?
on the other side of Ontecupu,
Right. Okay.
on the north side of Ontecupu.
Okay.
But they'll be getting heavy material in on the railway, and then they'll be shipping a truckload of finished product to the Kindle company each day,
Mm-hmm.
or Tyco it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a whole lot closer than Boston, Mass., and that company also would be
All right.
supplying the southeast with other similar
Mm-hmm.
plants.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very impressed with this man who came down and talked to us.
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman I believe is 68 years old. He's so sincere.
Mm-hmm.
He's so genuine,
Mm-hmm.
and he believes to take care of his employees.
Mm-hmm.
He loves somewhat the slow lane, but he's been in the fast lane for some time.
Mm-hmm. But he's still a young man, right, Jim?
Young man at 68, that's right. But he enjoys life, and he enjoys people, and he's quite a people person. So I enjoy those type people. He's one of these type fellows you like to be in a corner with him all night and just let him
Mhm.
talk and tell you his experiences and
Mm-hmm.
how he enjoys life and what he believes life should be, and
All right.
get the most of it.
Well, while we're reviewing accomplishments, we've been hearing a lot lately about this Character Counts program, and it's my understanding you had a lot to do with getting that off the ground. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Character Counts is going to be a program, I think, Dan, it will be a major influence on a lot of people in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Character Counts namely has 6 pillars that they talk about. These 6 pillars are trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship.
And that's what those on the city trucks? Those,
Yes.
Okay.
On all of our city vehicles, we're putting the 6 pillars of
Okay.
character counts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it won't be long. We're going to be having maybe license plates with that on there,
Mm-hmm.
maybe saying character counts in Franklin and Simpson County.
Mm-hmm.
We might have signs to go on a store window.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe in character counts and you preach it and you teach it, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
then you can get one of these signs put in your store window.
Mm-hmm. You know, I guess that's something that we all give lip service to. What was it that motivated you to do a little more than say, oh yeah, that's something that we need to instill, and actually work to get this program in?
Then I guess what got my interest, back in early April, I went to a meeting in Indianapolis for 2.5 days. And this was a competitor of character counts. It was called Character First.
Mm-hmm.
But basically they teach the type thing that I think society needs today. We've lost our system of values in caring for one another and doing the right thing in so many instances. We have so many broken homes, and the single parent, if he or she is working and got 3 children, they don't have time to teach these children everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to teach a child that it's wrong to steal,
Mm-hmm.
but also you've got to have respect for your neighbor, that you would be to work on time when you get out and you go to work, that you have dignity and honor, and all these things we're hoping to teach, and we're going to take one word a month, and we'll talk about it either in industry or business, government, and education. Also, the clergy is going to get involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be talking about throughout all of industry and all of town. Kids will be going home with probably papers and books, telling their parents about it. The parents at work may hear about it and be telling their children.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that bothers me, the other day my wife told me that she went to a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And here was a young man who, his shirt was hanging out, and his pants were about to fall off of his rear. And he was in a certain section of the grocery store, and he'd been over to pick up a case of fruit or canned goods, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
The shirt goes up, pants go down, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of bare area in there.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's not right. And to me, that young man should have a lot of respect. He should tuck in his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
he should pull his pants up.
Mm-hmm.
And also the employer should have enough guts to tell him, young man, you dress appropriately.
Yeah.
And
Aren't
we
you
just
kind
got to
of
learn
swimming
dignity.
upstream though with what is on TV and kind of the prevailing national trend? You got your work cut out for you. Seems like.
Well, if someone doesn't start somewhere, it will never be done.
To me. Yeah.
So someone's got to begin to put their finger in the dike and try to plug a few of these holes. And this is not going to turn Simpson County around overnight, but if we can get the value system begin to change,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have a lot of backing on this. We have a new, well, Jim Henderson and I are going to be co-chairman of this Character Counts Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronnie Ferguson has agreed to be the facilitator.
Okay.
And Ronnie, like I and Jim, is very interested and very enthused about the program.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 2 or 3 meetings already, and the enthusiasm is just unbelievable. Everybody wants to pitch in. We had a meeting the other day with 33 or 34 people there,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone wanted to help. Now, most meetings you go to, 10% of the people say, well, I'll help if I must, and if you draft me, I'll do it.
Right, but there's
in
no
this
big rush
meeting,
to volunteer
Everybody
usually.
wanted to be into this. The school system is very much behind it.
Mm-hmm.
4-H is already doing part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be some major influence on our society today.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get back to what's right and what's wrong and quit letting the pendulum swing so far
Mm-hmm.
to the side.
Well, it's interesting. One of the first things that we talked about under accomplishments was a dollar and cents thing with the economic development of the industries, and then now you're talking about something that you really can't put a dollar value on, but is an integral part of.
You can't buy a character.
Right, right.
It's not inherited. It's got to be taught. But also it can be caught by examples. If you've got a mentor or a parent or someone who can be an example,
Mm-hmm.
and these young people can follow their
Mm-hmm.
good example, then they're going to grow up to emulate them, to copy them in some way. And that's what we're hoping we can do
Mm-hmm.
over a period of time. But character counts is going to add something to the inside of that person.
Mm-hmm. So
we're going to have to billfold and their standard of living, but also if we can give them some inside guts, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to do.
Okay. I'm going to ask you here in a minute about any disappointments for the year, but before I do that, is there anything, I'll let you toot your own horn a little bit if you want to, anything else you want to mention on the accomplishment side of the ledger before I ask you what maybe you wanted to get done and didn't?
Dan, we've had 1 or 2 meetings so far on a new thing that's going to be coming up, and this is a consortium of a advanced technical training school here.
Mm-hmm. To take as a kind of in place of the vocational.
Well, to work in relationship with the vocational school here
Okay.
at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Back in October, I believe it was, there were about 8 of us who went to northern Kentucky. We went to Shelbyville, Oldham County Schools. The next day we went through the Toyota plant and then talked with their
Mm-hmm.
staff.
I talked to some people from the school system who had been a part of that trip. Yeah.
And then ended up, there were about 4 of us that went over to the state capitol
Mm-hmm.
and talked with the, I guess the, not the Secretary of the Workforce Development
Mm-hmm.
for the whole state of Kentucky. He and his commissioner were there.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked to them about what we wanted to do, that if we're going to be bringing new industry into Franklin
Mm-hmm.
and the workforce is down, how do we educate our people into being more suitable for a factory job? In other words, half of our high school class goes to college.
Okay.
So out of, say, 200 that graduate from Franklin and Simpson this year, 100 do not go to college. 100 do.
Right.
Out of those 100 that go to college, about 25% of those do not graduate for one
Okay.
reason or another.
Right.
So if you take statistics, that leaves about 62% of the people who do not have a college education,
Okay.
and they are our workforce.
And that's your target audience.
and that's our
for
target
this.
audience.
Okay.
So if we can begin teaching in the vocational at the high school at maybe the 10th or 11th and 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
we can teach them to come right out of high school and go right into the workforce
Mm-hmm.
arena.
Mm-hmm.
If you know at an early age you're not going to college and you do need
Mm-hmm.
some trade
Mm-hmm.
to make a living, then hopefully you can go to the vocational school and begin to learn
Mhm.
some kind of a occupation to make your living once you
Yeah.
get out.
Of course, in the world we live in, the technology changes awful fast. How do you keep up and know in 2 or 3 years, what you're doing is not outdated.
Well, now that's the second part of the equation. Not only are we going to try to help the vocational school, but we want to help train older adults or those who've already got a job but need retraining.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ron Crouch, or Couch I believe it is with the University level data statistics.
That's the population guy. Yeah, I've heard him speak down
now,
there.
he gives us a lot of statistics, but he's saying that around the age of 40, because of either company downsizing or going out of business, or maybe your job's changed, somewhere around 40 years of age, you've got to retool. You've got to relearn a new occupation. So if we have another building out here somewhere that has advanced technology and is backed by our local industries, we think that we can not only train high schoolers, but we can train those that out of school.
So you're saying after 3 o'clock they'd be coming in, and
they
that
can be
facility
trained
could be
through the day, at night, or weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of people who are maybe out of a job and they need to learn something else. Maybe you've been working at Tyco out here and you've been doing one thing in the Curad department, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden that field changes and your job is no longer there and you've got to go to a computer.
Yeah, what if they start doing that in Mexico or some other place, and then...
So we have to educate ourselves again, re-educate, and we have a lot of people who are under-educated. So we're going to be trying to make a building someday, and we're going to call it a consortium because we have the state of Kentucky that wants to help with it, Western Kentucky wants to help with it, the local school system wants to help with it, industry wants to help with it, city and county government want to help with it, the Western Kentucky Advanced Technology School in Bowling Green also wants to help. So if we can get all these people together, we could eventually put up a building somewhere down the road that would train a lot of people and further their education. And I think that's going to be one of the big positives we'll have.
Public education is free. Is this something that would be free to students? And what about adults? Would they pay something to take this course, or would they?
They'll probably pay something to do this. Now, what we're looking at is the state of Kentucky would somewhat help fund this, but also locally we would have to put up some of our own dollars here. City and county, industry would have to put up some.
So it'd be subsidized, so the fee the student paid
but everybody comes into this thing.
Affordable.
But under this program, you would also be having people who are certified. When they come out of this program, they'd have a certified degree, so that if you're, say, in robotics, you would have a certified robotic certificate. And it's just not a in school and graduate now, but you'd be certified if you're an automobile mechanic.
Kind of like coming out of college with a major.
That's right.
I see.
And you would be trained, and you would have a certificate that's been given by the state, so to speak, that you are a very qualified and trained, highly trained individual.
What's the timeline projected for this, Jim?
I'd say in the next 2 to 4 years, we hope to have it up and running. We're trying to get the thing running as fast as we can. Working with Denny Griffin in the industrial recruitment area, he has sent out a survey to the different plants here in town, asking them what do they need in a workforce area for better employees. And they've sent back 15 or 20 different things they'd like to see a class offered in. And then industry has also gotten together and they've tried to consolidate this to maybe 5 to 10 different classes that they could have.
Would you be doing some of your character count stuff and with this consortium?
Well, character counts is already making some decisions in city government already. We can see it in commission meetings, in the way we treat employees, and the way we treat the public. We're trying to already incorporate some character counts technology, you might say. But in this other school, I'm sure it'll be carrying over into that. Trying to do the right thing. We want to be fair with everybody, honest.
I mean, I could see after a couple hours of technical training, maybe 30 minutes that's kind of more on the what makes a good employee, good citizen type, things that aren't, you turn this widget that way, but, this is how you react to your person you're working with as part of the team,
Well, that's one thing we're going to be doing in the city. We're going to be taking 30 minutes to an hour once a month and teaching each department character.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when a policeman stops you down in Ware for speeding, and we want him to be courteous when he comes up to you.
Mm-hmm.
We want him to be fair. Now, if you get unruly, that's a different story. But as an individual, you deserve courtesy and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true with the water employees, the sewer treatment employees, our staff at City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
We want to answer the phone in a courteous and kind manner, and
Mm-hmm.
assume that if you have a problem, we treat you fairly and squarely.
Right. Well, that's a pretty good list you got there of accomplishments, but
We've had a good first year. If it all works out,
yeah,
we have had one big disappointment though, Dan.
Okay, well, I was going to say there probably was one little clinker in there, so you mind sharing with us what that was? Or?
Well, back earlier in the year, we worked with Brad, the Barren River Area Development District, in trying to work up a $1 million grant.
Mm-hmm.
And we applied through them to get this grant, and we were told that it was high on the list and it would be funded. Now here we are in early December, and I found out last week we're not going to be funded this $1 million grant. And this money was going to be going to help people repair homes. If you had a leaky roof, if you had a bad front porch, if your sidewalk needed repairing, these type things, and you qualified, you had to qualify for these type grant money. But then we were going to repair these homes, and maybe we could build some new homes and make them up to bring up everything to code.
Mm-hmm.
That if you have to rewire a house, you bring it up to code, whatever current code is, or plumbing, whatever it might be.
But you'd still be in your own home rather
still be in
than
your own
in an
home.
apartment complex or...
That's right.
Right.
But anyway, we found out for some reason it did not go through, and it's been a big disappointment because I was told it was coming through, and now I'm having to tell people, I'm sorry, but it did not come through.
Well, is it dead kaput or maybe just delayed and you got another shot at it?
Well, we have another shot at it. We can reapply again next year. But writing grants apparently is a specialty, and everyone doesn't get theirs through.
Mm-hmm.
There was 26 that went to the governor's desk to be signed, and ours was not near the top, I'm afraid.
Not one of those, yeah. Well, maybe another year it will be. When you were on back in January of this year, you said something about hoping to maybe increase the size of the city, annex a little territory. What's the status of that? That you probably weren't universally loved when you made that suggestion, but are you still plugging away on that?
Still plugging away every day. We've probably got more signatures for people who have consented to come into the city than most people know about.
Really? Yeah.
We have annexed quite a bit of territory already. Lester Key's new residential development out here is going to be in.
Which is on Witt and Bluegrass Roads,
yes,
kind of? Okay.
Sort of out behind his house and west of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten the doctor's complex south of town, and we've gotten a new Walmart store in the city.
Okay, they are in the city limits.
They're in the city.
Okay.
But we're working our way out to exit 2, trying to get people to see the pluses of being annexed. We're going to exit 6 as well. And the new industrial park where Dynafilms is going to be, we need to annex that area because that area is going to be on a sewer for these new plants. And the sewer is coming to a city wastewater treatment plant.
How far north are they of your present city limits? To go out and pick them up, how
Well,
much
the
further?
incinerator out on Salmons Road is in the city limits.
Okay.
And the city limits goes right up to Salmons Road there, I think.
Okay, so you're not really too far away.
So we'll be going
Yeah.
probably half mile to a mile at the most on up the railroad line there. And we're wanting to connect a sewer line up to the new industrial park.
I see.
So that's,
So primarily north and south along 31W is where you're
yes.
looking.
We're going where the growth is.
Right. Right.
And industry's growing north. It's growing south at exit 2 very rapidly. And we already have a sewer out to exit 2. But we don't have one far enough north yet.
All right.
But we're still working on annexation. We have some people who want to come in and they say, I'll be part of the community. And what we're trying to do is go to people one-on-one and say, for the good of the community, we think it'd be wise if you would consider this. And some people don't agree, and they have certainly their right.
Well, what's your when you go to sell them, and they say, oh, if I come in, I'll have to pay city taxes.
That's right.
What do you, and you say yes, but, and then what's your comeback to that?
Well, with your city taxes, you'll get increased police force. The sheriff has got, I think, around 7 people
Mm-hmm.
We have 19 currently on the police force, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So where the sheriff has one on duty possibly at night, we have 3 cars out running all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fire department that I think is an excellent fire department. Someone is at the fire hall most of the hours when fires occur.
Mm-hmm.
From 7 to 6 or 7 at night, there's almost someone at the fire hall almost entirely all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And even on weekends, they do trainings on Saturdays. They do trainings on Tuesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
We have a quick response from our fire department, and I think they're excellent trained.
Mm-hmm.
They're highly
Now,
trained individuals.
Am I right that part of the rationale for doing some of what you're doing on the fire department may be then the insurance that people in the city buy to insure themselves against losses by fire would be cheaper if what you've done convinces the people that rate cities for their fire protection to change Franklin's rating? Is that still a goal?
True. Right now, Dan, the state has Franklin and Simpson County on a 6/9 fire ISO rating.
Mm-hmm.
6 being in the city, 9 being in the county,
Mm-hmm.
considering that's all one fire department.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, we have split fire departments. So
Right.
when ISO comes in here again, possibly in January to inspect us again, this is going to put the state on notice that we are separate again. So the city would have a 6 and the county would have a 9
Mm-hmm.
and would not be combined in any way.
And be
We're-
easier to get your city rates lowered by looking just at the city?
We think with accomplishments we've made with the fire department, water distribution, with equipment, with the training of the men, with all this that goes into the formula of getting a lower rating,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be able to go from a 6 rating to a 4,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a 3. We don't know yet. And the lower rating, possibly the lower premium for your fire insurance on your homeowners. Now, it's not true in every case, but we think we're going to be able to lower our rating, and then we'll see what it does to the fire premiums.
Okay. I mentioned when we started that we see you on TV about twice a month presiding over the meetings, but I'm just curious, that's one night out of 14. Take us kind of through what the job of mayor does. Do you try to maintain set office hours, or is your schedule too crazy for that and it's just depending on what's going on? And do you have to travel to Frankfurt or meetings or that sort of thing? How if you had to write a job description for Mayor of Franklin, tell us what it would be.
Well, City Hall is open from 8 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, and certainly I'm not there all those hours. I was told when I was going to run for office it would take 30 minutes to an hour or two a day. But
That didn't turn out to be the case?
I'm a full-time employee now, so it takes more than 30 hours a week to have that status. But I normally get there 9 to 9:30, depending on what morning it is and what appointments you have.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often it's 4:30 to 5 before I get home in the afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I put about 67 miles on my car doing city business. I went to Bowling Green to a Brad meeting, came back, but did other things in town. And some days I'll put 16 or 17 miles on the car, other days it'll be 30 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been to Frankfurt a few times to some meetings. I've been to meetings out of town that occasionally come up. What I do more than anything else, I guess, Dan, is do more networking. I think that term sort of suits my job because Tom Gordon, our city manager, takes care of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an ex officio member of most of the boards in Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
You meet with the Renaissance, and you meet with the Industrial Board, you meet with the Chamber of Commerce.
So you try to make all those meetings?
I try to make most of those meetings. And as you know, some of those meetings start at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So some days you start out at 7 in the morning and you have a meeting at 12, maybe a luncheon somewhere, and then there's some meetings that start at 5:30 in the afternoon or 5:05 after everybody gets off work. And
Right.
and some days turn into 12 and 14-hour days. Other days things just seem to get still and you go home at noon or something. But
Well, now I've got to
it's as
say,
busy as you want to make it.
Compared to when you were a city councilman, the city commission meetings are shorter than they used to be. I remember some of those during that time period that we were talking about when things were kind of rough. You guys would go down there at 7, you'd still be there at 11 o'clock at night. Now, you generally don't keep them that long. You transact the business and
well, we
get
don't
out of
have
there
the
faster
problems.
than that.
We don't have the problems now we did back then. That's when the city was broke. Mayor Bill Young did an excellent job of getting us out of a hole, and we had some very controversial issues. At that time, the water meters were not being read correctly, or the bills were wrong, and there was a lot of complaints there. I think right now our water department is running very smoothly. We've got a good water department.
So you think the present city commissioners probably enjoy their job more maybe than you did?
Immensely more. Because we used to have meetings and there would be a lot of people there and they were ready to fight when you go into these meetings, and they were very vocal. There were a lot more controversial issues.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 years as a city councilman compared to my first year as mayor.
Yeah. At the end of the year coming up, we'll have elections. Do you look for the present commissioners to probably run for re-election? Have you heard any of them say? Or?
I certainly hope they will. I've not talked to all of them yet, but I hope they will.
So if for your 4 years you had the same group, that would suit you just fine?
It would suit me fine, because we've got a smooth ship at this point. And I enjoy each one of the gentlemen personally. I think we get along ideal-wise is what we want for the city and where it's headed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Do you all talk on the phone much in between meetings, or run into one another for coffee or whatever, or do you rarely see one another between meetings?
Well, Wendell and Herbert both work.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Austin, John Craddock, myself supposedly are retired. And I see Bill Austin more than any other because he's working with the Industrial Board, but I see John around town a little bit, and occasionally Herbert and Wendell will stop in and come to City Hall, and they'll drop in the office and we'll talk for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I do call. It's hard to get hold of some working people sometimes, so you've got to call and leave a message on the phone for them to return your phone call.
Right.
But we try to stay in contact as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a special issue that's causing a problem, we talk more, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it hasn't been a bad year. We've had a real smooth year.
Knock on wood, and the next 3 as smooth, you think?
I hope they're just as smooth.
I don't know how you feel about New Year's resolutions, but a lot of times people around this time of year talk about that sort of thing. And with your official mayor's hat on, are there any mayor-type New Year's resolutions of things, well, this is what I want to try to get done in the year 2000? Have you had enough time to reflect on that and think about particular objectives for the next 12 months?
Dan, I've not had any objectives for the year 2000 or 2001, 2002 as yet, but there's something that keeps popping up, and I might bring it up, and it might be a sore subject, it may not, but during my days of annexation in this last year, I had a subdivision together one night of about 34 homes.
Mm-hmm.
When I went into the meeting, I thought possibly 30 out of 34 either were in favor of or didn't care one way or the other which way it would go.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had 4 homes that were opposed to it. By the time I got to the meeting, they had organized. And so I had 34 homes anti-annexation.
And they were laying for you when you came in.
Which surprised me. And so I knew when I went in, the group was rather quiet, and within 3 minutes after the meeting started, I realized we were not going to get anywhere talking about annexation, and it was like talking to this brick wall. But before long, I said, if you're not for annexation, what would you think of metro government?
Mm-hmm.
What about unifying city and county government?
Mm-hmm.
All 34 homes represented there raised their hand, they would be for it.
Is that right? Hmm.
Now, to me, that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a large vote saying, yes, we want unified government. And I'm hearing that more and more, that people are wanting city and county to get together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we try, it's not going to be accomplished in a few months. It would be many months to get all this work done. But I think that's an area where we could work on, and I would like to see us go that way.
Well, if that small group is a representative of the larger population, then how would one go about accomplishing that? Would it come as a citizen request, or is it something that local government officials like yourself initiate? I mean, if you detect people out there for it, then what's the procedure to bring it into being?
Well, and as I say, those 34 homes were for it, but I know there's 34 more homes that are against it too. But I would like to see an interested citizen group to say, come to us and say, let's start talking about this, and let's get some, some communication going back and forth, and let's work out the details. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there'd be a lot of savings money-wise if you put both governments' budgets together and operate it, but I think you'd have more focus which way we're going, and some duplications will be cut out. You would save some money, but not a great amount.
So you still have your city service area and your county service area, probably, because obviously the police are closer to the core of the area than they would be to the outer areas
well, I
of the
think
county.
if you combine the two, you'd have only one police force. And that would all be under the county judge. The county judge would be the number one elected official in the metro area, and everything would be under that person.
But I was thinking in Davidson County, which is metro, aren't there like service districts, and the way the fire thing is rated?
I'm sure
the
there
core
is.
area is a little different than further out in the county.
But Franklin is in Simpson County is so much smaller than Davidson County.
Well, that's true.
You look at Lexington and Fayette County, that's the only metronized area in the state of Kentucky. However, Louisville's talking about it. But I believe it's Lexington and Fayette County Police Department, or Metro Police Department up there, and they may have substations out here.
Well, now, if we go metro, or would we still have a mayor? Would you be working yourself out of a job?
I'll be working myself out of a job, but I have no problems with that. If it's going to be good for the community, I have no problem with it, and I would be very much for it.
Well, so if you were going to look into a crystal ball or make predictions, would you say in 5-10 years you think we will be metro?
I'd say at 10 years max we'll be metro.
All right.
I think we're going to have to go that way to keep up with the times.
Well, let me see if I can get a few more predictions out of you. You know, the end of the year, a lot of people predict, and we're not only starting a new year, we're starting a new century. Now, I know you're going to be good for another 100 years, but I'm not going to ask you to predict that far out. Tell me what you think we'll see in the city of Franklin and the community within the next 5-10 years, other than you think we'll have metro government. Any other predictions you want to lay on us?
And I don't know if 5 is correct. It'd probably be between 5 and 10, but I think you've got to start working on it.
Okay.
Other predictions? I don't know if I've got any other predictions at this point. What I'm seeing is a change of attitude more than anything else. I'm seeing more togetherness, not just metro governments per se, but when we talk about Franklin Simpson County, I think we talk about one. When you leave home and you live out in the county, and someone said, "Where are you from, Dan?" Do you say Simpson County or you say Franklin? I think when people think of Franklin or Simpson County as Franklin Simpson. You know, a lot of people don't know where Franklin, Kentucky is, but when you say Franklin Simpson, that sort of rings a bell. Oh, I know, that's where they got the good football teams or basketball teams or baseball teams. I think our school system has gotten that Franklin Simpson across very good, and with the combined educational facility we have, I think it's a good start for a metro area. I don't know that I've got any major predictions. There have been a couple things I've heard lately that sort of caught my ear. One, Franklin and Simpson County is no longer going to be known as an agricultural area. It's going to be known as industrial. Something else I heard was that it's either in 5 years or 10 years, and I believe it's 5, 90% of the knowledge we have today is going to be obsolete in 5 years. So it means all the new things discovered, all the internet things are going to come out, the webs. We're growing so fast with technology and knowledge. If we don't keep up, we're going to be left so far behind. And that's another reason for this consortium high-tech training center. It would have to change from time to time.
Right.
But I just, I foresee Franklin's going to change from a sleepy little town to one with a little bit more hustle and bustle.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to widen the streets, 31W.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to be a little bit more cognizant of our neighbors'
Mm-hmm.
problems.
Population-wise, you look for a big jump, or you think it's going to be slow and steady, or
Well,
what does your friend Ron Crouch tell you about that one?
Ron Couch is predicting slow, steady growth.
Yeah.
I think with the industry we're bringing in, we're going to see a little bit more growth than what he's predicted.
Mm-hmm.
I think that houses from 60 to 130, 60,000, 130,000 would be very popular homes to
Mm-hmm.
be building,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people will be able to afford to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have a real high average income for the citizens of Simpson County,
Mm-hmm.
one of the highest in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Our
But we have a
factors here-
fairly high percentage of people also who are below the poverty line, don't we?
Yes,
I mean,
we
that's
do.
kind of an ironic thing to have both in the same.
And a lot of that goes with education and school dropouts and this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm hoping we can, if you don't want to go to college, then just try another trade or something else
Mhm.
that you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
if we can't work with our minds, we work with our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do both.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the better education you're going to get, the higher paying job you're going to get, the higher standard of living you'll have. And that's what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
There are 12 to 1,400 people that leave Simpson County every day to go out of county to work.
And do you know how many live outside and come in? Does it
Probably-
balance out, or is it?
I think there's more come in than go out.
Is that right? Yeah.
But
You'd like to keep the ones here that go
we wanna
out
keep
and then
those
keep those
here,
other folks coming.
and then these other people will come in, they're going to say how nice and clean a community this is.
Yeah.
I believe I'm going to move to Franklin, Simpson County.
Well, this is kind of a technical question, but I know in Kentucky they rate cities like the city of Louisville, maybe Lexington, as first class because they got a population above a certain amount, and they're second and third and fourth. If Franklin's population grows and you changed classes, would that mean anything to the average citizen, or is that just a real
No,
technical?
we're a fourth class, I believe, now.
Okay,
And we've got to get to 10,000 before we get to a third class.
okay, but that wouldn't change
But I don't
anything
think that's
much.
going to make much change to the average citizen out here.
Okay.
It means a few more requirements that maybe the city might have to do,
Mhm.
provide more services or whatever.
Right, right. Now we're right around 8 right now, so we have a ways to go even to get to the 10, I guess.
Yes.
So,
Now, the census is going to be counted
that's
what,
right.
in
it's
April.
next year. Yeah, right away.
So I would like to reach 10,000. I don't think we will because a lot of the subdivisions that are just outside the city limits
Yeah.
are not in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we had those areas of outside
Mm-hmm.
population growth, if they were inside the city, we'd be pretty close to 10.
Yeah.
You can drive throughout the county and you see a lot of new homes. There's been a lot of construction in Franklin and Simpson County the last 5 or 10 years. So I think you'll see our census go up a little bit. But it's estimated we're between 16,000, 17,000, somewhere in there.
Are we that high? Yeah, maybe. Okay. That's the estimate of what the count will come in at, you're
Mhm.
saying? Yeah, yeah. Because I think the last census, weren't we just a bit under 15 in 1990?
I believe
Seems
that's
like
right.
we're,
Mhm.
we're bumping right up against 15. So, yeah. And that's not bad for the small geographic area that we take in. So.
Well, I think we've got a good community. If you want a bedroom community, we've got a good bedroom community.
Mhm.
If you want to work in a factory that gives you decent wages with benefits, I think we've got that.
Yeah.
I think if you want good, clean government, I'm impressed with city government.
Yeah.
And it's not me, it's not Jim Arnold, but it's what's been laid in place and is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm inheriting a good city-run government. I think we're pretty good shape in the city, and we're in good, sound financial shape, good advice from our city manager, and good city commission.
Well, I tell you what, that sounds like a pretty good place to bow out. Our time's about gone, and you got everything sounding mighty good there, so maybe we better quit while we're
We better
ahead.
quit while we're here.
Call it quits. We'll keep looking for you on the TV at those meetings. Are you all happy meeting over at the school board's
That's a beautiful
meeting
facility.
room? So for the foreseeable future, you're gonna stay there? Is that?
Well,
or-
we'll probably stay there. It's probably cheaper to stay there than for us to build. We do need more room at City Hall. We're about to run out of office space, and we need to rethink the way we do some business in there, it could be better arranged.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, I think we're
You
happy.
change things a little bit. The floor doesn't sink in the middle.
That's right. We don't have that, and you don't have the people falling there that have fallen before.
I really had people falling down those steps in the past. I just wasn't aware of that.
But it's a lot safer now. It's more handicap accessible too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. If we don't hog tie you before then, we'll drag you in here a year from now and let you do this again, and you can review the first year of the new century for us, just like you reviewed the last year of the old one.
Dan, I hope we're both here. Hope we're both here.
I intend to be, so I'm sure you do too. We've been talking today with Franklin Mayor Jim Arnold, who was kind enough to come in and review the year that is drawing to a close and help us look ahead to the year 2000. We want to thank all of you all for watching us during this year, and we hope you'll stay tuned next year. We intend to continue bringing community people into your homes via cable channel 12, and we wish you all a happy holiday season and a happy new year. Look forward to trying to entertain you and inform you again in the year 2000. Please stay tuned. Hello, I'm Dan Ware. On this segment of Frankly Franklin, I'm going to be talking with Tom Gordon, who is the city manager here of the city of Franklin. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dan.
We've seen you on TV before at those city commission meetings, and I think this would be a good opportunity for the people watching to get to know a little bit about you. Now, how long have you been in Franklin?
See, I've been with the city since, actually started Labor Day of 1995. Day after Labor Day.
I didn't have you work on the holiday right off the bat, huh? But now you didn't come to town as city manager initially. You came as city engineer.
That's correct. Back in 95, we had just gotten back to the mainland from Hawaii. We were over there for 4 years, and the city of Franklin was looking for an engineer, and I was looking for something a little different than what I was doing. I was a civil engineer, but I'd never worked for a municipality before. And I put in for the job and ended up getting it.
So I didn't know that you had been 4 years in Hawaii. What kind of work were you doing out there?
I was a civil engineer out there.
What kind of projects were you?
We had done quite a bit of solid waste, landfill closures and solid waste planning. Mm-hmm. One of the projects I had was putting together the solid waste master plan for the Big Island.
Mm-hmm. Now, where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Michigan.
From Michigan. All right, so you wanted to go to Hawaii to get warm.
It definitely was a change in climate.
Yeah, yeah. And then you got here in time for snow and ice and all that sort of thing.
We had a couple of pretty good storms since I've been here.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we're taping this on a Thursday, and we had a pretty good blow last night, so that's been part of your job today, is dealing with the brush and stuff, the fallout from that, right?
Yeah, we got out, kind of looked around at, the storm damage, and today we were kind of keeping track of how many calls we had of people looking for help with brush pickup, and we're evaluating right now. Tomorrow morning we're going to get the people in who do the brush pickup. Yeah, they're also the same people who do our mowing. So we're going to have to make some decisions as how much we can pick up at any given time and how much mowing we can let go, because we don't want to have 3-foot tall grass on city lots.
How much of the job is crisis management, dealing with things that come up like that, and how much of it is the strategic planning and the...
Yeah, it should be more strategic planning and less crisis management, but Mother Nature never really cooperates on that end, and we do spend a lot of time reacting because, as much as we'd like to plan things out, there's always external factors that are planning against you or, at the same time. So probably I'd like to think that we spend about 75% of our time planning and maybe 25% or less reacting.
Well, now you're functioning right now as both city manager and city engineer.
That's correct.
All right. When you were in engineering school, did you imagine that you might wind up being a city manager in a small town, or what were your, at that time, were you thinking you were headed for a big city, or what?
Well, at that time, working for a municipality just never even occurred to me. Although civil engineering that I'm in, we did a lot of work with municipalities, and I had clients that were maybe towns of 200 people, all the way up to the city and county of Honolulu and the state of Hawaii as clients. But it seemed like most of the time I was working as a civil engineer, I was working for, or had municipal clients. And it seemed like pretty natural progression after a while. And I had a friend who was, actually two friends who were city managers who started out as city engineers.
So that's not an uncommon thing then, I guess.
It's a lot more common than I would have thought when I was in school.
Well, I've been following City Commission for several years, and of course until they hired you as an engineer, a lot of times they would have consulting, a engineering firm as a consulting firm. Is that kind of like the situation that you were in with municipalities as clients? You worked for an engineering firm and somebody went out and solicited business and then you had to solve their problems?
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty accurate description. You know, and a lot depended on the size of the community. The smaller the community was, it seemed like the more of a role you'd take in things that were